Hey guys, and welcome back to the 100 Days in a Flat World series. I have two previous episodes for this. If you haven't seen them, make sure to go watch them. So, on day 50, I started off by just kind of adding some more detail to the storage house so it didn't look so flat and, had a little bit more detail to it, made it look significantly nicer. And then after I did that, I moved on to doing a little bit of farming, just trying to take things a little bit slower as I was getting back into recording this episode. On day 51, I chopped down a whole bunch of trees so I could make a little house type of thing on top of the trading hole. On day 52, I started working on the roof for it, but of course I chose to do dark oak, which would become a problem because I didn't have enough dark oak. So I wasn't able to finish all of the roof and would have to wait until I saw more villagers because I didn't have enough dark oak saplings to make another tree. So I needed another wandering trader so I could get more saplings, which, spoiler, I did thankfully find another trader. And just kind of here's what it looks like now, and I do know it looks absolutely horrendous. That doesn't really change throughout the entirety of me working on it. And then I worked on getting some emeralds because I needed to gather some resources, some books and whatnot, so that I could upgrade some of my tools, because throughout the entire first little bit, I'd actually been getting some ender pearls at night to go fight the dragon, and I finally had enough. So yeah, I did that on the night going into day 53, and then day 53 is when I found my trader and locked him in a boat, and then worked on getting enough emeralds so that I could get those dark oak saplings back. Thankfully, it didn't take too long for me to be able to get all of the emeralds that I needed now that I had pretty well set up farms, and I was able to get both of them pretty quickly. After that, I finished up everything that I needed to gather resources, and I moved on to my little trip to go to the end. Thankfully, I'd already marked off where I needed to go, so it didn't take long for me to get here, and I got ready to go fight the Ender Dragon. And I want to say this, that I'm not the best at fighting, and it became very evident throughout the entire time of me, fighting the dragon. It took an obscene amount of time. I was there for multiple days, as you'll be able to see in the top of the corner, and I died 7 times. I kept track how many times I died. One time I didn't even die because I was in the end. I had died, spawned back at my bed. There was a hole right there, and I just walked off and fell to my death. It was pretty pitiful, I'm gonna be entirely honest. I've fought the dragon so many times, yet every time I seem to do absolutely horrendous at it. But, thankfully in the end, I was able to do it. And, I won. And I wasn't that worried about taking the egg or anything after that. I really just wanted to fight the dragon so that, we could beat Minecraft in this series, and then I could go about doing anything else that I wanted to do that wasn't this. So then on day 56, I began my journey back home, which thankfully also didn't take too long. When I got back, I pretty much just started off with my usual stuff, and that usual stuff consisted of farming and finding and taming cats. And then after that, I went and grabbed the rest of the dark oak that I needed to finish off the roof of the jail. And thankfully this time I'd also gotten a significant amount more of saplings, so now I didn't really need to worry about not having enough. And here's what it looks like, pretty much completely finished, and it is ugly. Trust me, I know. And then on day 57, I was farming, grinding out the usual. I then also killed my trader after I had gotten some melon seeds, because I had then realized that it had melon seeds, so I quickly took some from the extra emeralds that I had left over, and then went over on day 58 to add a little bit more detail to the jail. After that, I started just cleaning up the space a little bit because it was pretty ugly and I was not happy with the way it was looking. And then on day 59, I had gotten the idea that I wanted to build a new and prettier farm, which meant I had to clear out some buildings and some other stuff so that I could get started on it. And then on day 56, I pretty much just continued building with that. I actually ended up making a mistake on this, and I put this dark oak farm into one of the slime chunks, and I thought that if I was growing crops on it, no slimes would spawn, but I was very obviously wrong with that. I thought it was correct. I had put some string across the actual dark oak part, and so nothing would spawn there. I thought that I would still be fine, but no. And of course, I also ended up running out of dirt too, so I decided instead of having path blocks for my paths, I would instead use cobble, since I had an infinite amount of cobble. And I thought it would add a little bit more detail to it, so I pretty much just went around doing cobble and mossy cobble as a way to replace the dirt so that I could use the dirt in my farms instead. And then I went back to continuing on the farms on day 61. At this point, I'd still yet to realize that I had made a mistake in that, slimes could still spawn on my farms, but I did go back and fix it. On day 62 is finally when I realized that I actually did make a mistake and I needed to correct that mistake. And then later on the day, that's when I started on building the new one in a non-slime chunk. On day 63, I felt bad for my horse for being out in the rain because it was constantly raining. I felt bad for him, so I decided that I would build him a stable. Not a very good stable, but it meant that he wouldn't be shacked up to a fence post and instead could have a little bit more space, and he would be covered from the rain. So I worked on that on day 63. Later on the day, I also continued on with some more paths because I had already started, and well, I wanted more now. I thought, why not add some more, make some more space, make things look a little bit more coherent. So I worked on that for a little bit at the end of day 63 as well. Day 64 is when I started putting in all the cobble and mossy cobble. And then I decided to go to the Nether so that I could get some gravel to make coarse dirt out of. Honestly, I'm so glad that I chose to add the coarse dirt because it makes everything look so much nicer and kind of differentiates the path from the actual builds themselves. And of course, at this point, I was also determined to make things look prettier, so I decided to start removing some of the buildings because I hated them and I wanted to build things where they were. And here's what things are looking like so far at this point. And then on day 65, I thought, why not add a custom tree just for fun? So I worked on that, and I'm definitely going to add some more later on as well. But I want to make other things look a lot prettier as well before I just start adding a bunch of custom trees everywhere. So I did my best to make that look as pretty as I possibly could. And then I also decided that I should add some benches to add a little park vibe to everything. And I thought it would also take up some of the empty space that was just kind of around, since I didn't have builds for every single spot planned, but I still wanted to have a little bit in each kind of spot. And here is where I call the village trading house jail. And here's what it looks like with the tree included. And then I wanted to expand some of the villagers area as well. Not because I necessarily have any plans for the villagers, I just thought maybe I'll be a little bit more humane and give them some more room. So I then gave them some food so that they could breed and I could have some more villagers. And then, of course, on day 66, I went back to burning some of the ugly buildings. I have to say that I was really smart for thinking of this because I did not want to have to tear all of this down manually. I am so glad that I decided to use the flint and steel instead. And then I decided to fish. I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do at this point. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do more build or if I wanted to travel or what I wanted to do. So I decided I would fish instead as a way to give myself some time to think about what I wanted to do. And thankfully, I did come up with an idea. And that idea was to start terraforming. Now it's a flat world, so where are you going to get all of the materials for terraforming? Obviously, I'm going to use a lot of cobble, and that's pretty much it. So my terraforming idea, at least to start off with, is a mountain. That's why I needed so much cobble. So on day 67, I started out my grinding journey of getting cobble and placing cobble to start building a mountain. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this project completely done because I don't want to make the entirety of the next episode just me building this mountain. I want to do some other stuff as well, but I'm going to do my best to add this into it because I don't want to make the background of this entire thing just vast openness. I wanted to do something to kind of tie everything in a little bit. And I do have plans for what is going to be on top of the mountain, but I haven't quite decided on how I'm going to do it yet. And also, if you guys have any other suggestions for what I should do, feel free to comment them down below. So pretty much everything that I've been doing from day 66 onwards is pretty much just shuffling between grinding out cobblestone and placing it to make this huge giant mountain. And it is a really ugly mountain. Don't get me wrong, I know it's ugly, it's terrible. But I also haven't added in a whole lot of details yet. Like, as you're looking at it, it's just a ugly pile of cobble that goes up a little too high and also has no back because I've been using an iron pick at this point and a cobblestone generator. If I were to get all of the cobble I need for that, it would take forever. So I decided I would just leave the back open and we can just ignore it. It's a facade, a set, if you will. None of it is real. So I continued my shuffle between grinding out cobble and placing it all down on the mountain. Throughout this entire process, I actually ended up watching so many episodes of a show I really like, and it took so much longer than I thought it would. At this point on day 69, I actually ended up deciding that I could not handle continuously clicking to mine the cobble and just ended up turning on an auto clicker so that while that was going on, I could at least pay more attention to my show. Because the show was not in English, so trying to constantly watch where the cobble was and then looking over at my other monitor so I could read the subtitles was getting a little annoying. So I just turned on the auto clicker and let it run for a little while and then came back intermittently and placed cobble. Thankfully though, throughout the entire start of this build, I was actually having a lot of fun building it. I don't do many terraforming from the ground up, it's rather just reshaping things that already exist. So I was actually having a pretty fun time placing all of these blocks in really random orders, because it's just not something that I usually do, and it felt kind of nice to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. And honestly, this part, though watching is pretty boring, like it was a lot of fun to actually work on. And I should say too, throughout the entire recording of this, I recorded on 2 separate days. I died a total of 12 times in this episode. 12 times. And 7 of those were in the end, and 5 of those were just out and about. Sometimes I got killed by zombies, sometimes I was being killed by skeletons, sometimes I even fell to my death. Yeah. It quite frankly, was a lot of deaths, and if we compare this to my other series, my Let's Play series, where I have died once in 5 months, because that's how long the series has been going for, I think there's some difference there. I promise I'm really not actually that bad at this game. I'm a little bit bad at PvP, but everything else I'm not that bad at. On day 52, with only 3 days left, I once again continued off the process of mining cobble and then going back to place it on the mountain. I worked a little bit on figuring out the shape of the mountain so that I could put the build that is going on the inside look pretty nice. And thankfully, it didn't take too long for me to actually figure out the total shape and could then move on to adding a little bit more details. I'm going to add some regular stone into it as well, so it's not entirely just cobble, but I'm just not at that point yet because I still need to go mining for so much cobble. But I'll get there. So I pretty much just started off by adding some leaves onto it so that it could look a little bit like the mountain was actually being taken over a bit more by nature instead of just a giant boulder. And it significantly looks so much better with all of the leaves on it. And then on day 74, I wanted to do a little bit more farming and then gave that all to my villagers so that they could breed some more. And then I traded so I could get some more emeralds. And then just kind of admired all of the stuff that we had done in this episode. Just kind of looked at it, saw what we had done, saw the changes that had been made, and just kind of looked at all of it. And so that is where we're going to end it. Thank you guys for watching, and catch the next episode in about 2 weeks for the last final episode, days 75 to day 100. Thanks for watching!